Are you ready to increase your retention and revenue and convert website traffic to clients? Then you're ready for Maya. Maya is a marketing and client recruitment software. Maya creates better business relationships by pairing the right clients with the right beauty professionals. How do we do it? A matchmaker. Your brand will have its own unique matchmaking survey. By pairing people based on their skill set, budget, personality, and lifestyle preferences, Maya creates lasting relationships that keep both sides coming back for more. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. Pair the right clients with the right beauty pros the first time. Visit joinmaya.com to get started.
Thank you for joining me. This is Katie Whitledge with a Beyond the Technique podcast. Today, we're talking about tools to make your life better. We all need that. I have first-time guest and industry giant. He's that big of a deal, I promise you. We have Paul Tate here today. He kind of shared with me behind the scenes when I asked him, like, send me your bio. I want to tell people about you. He said, hey, just look on LinkedIn. Well, here's what it says on LinkedIn. He is growing cool brands and building incredible teams. You'll learn all about his journey. We begin that conversation now. So without further ado, help me welcome Paul Tate. Welcome to Beyond the Technique.
Thank you, Katie, very much. Great to be here.
I'm so glad that we finally nailed you down to do this conversation because I know
busy.
You are so busy and so just in demand because of how big a way that you serve people in the industry. I want to start way back in the beginning for you, Paul. What made you decide to dive into the beauty industry?
So my father was a color chemist for Weller in the early 60s. He started and stayed there for 40 years. So felt I was probably surrounded by the world of hair very early on. And my mum is where I met my mum there. And actually my granddad worked in the stores, in the warehouses as well. And so, yeah, I think that gave me a good understanding of what he did at an early age. And then as I finished university, it was really around when hardware and software were being developed by small businesses. And so I decided to work with a company that was building technology for dry cleaners. And then we decided to go into the hairdressing market and help some of the bigger chains in the UK. And companies like John Frieda, Trevor Sorbie, some of those sort of institutional names that we know were starting to use tech. And so that's what I started doing. And that's how I stayed, because I loved it. And we really grew the technology inside that user base in the UK very quickly.
Okay, well, I know that you are in the US now. So after growing your software company, what brought you over to the US?
Yeah, so I sold that distribution business to the company Shortcuts that we were reselling their technology for. And they were doing the same thing in the US, and it wasn't going so well. And I had ownership in the business, so I was interested in it doing well. And so I flew over. I think in the first 2 weeks also met Valerie, who I'm now married to with 2 children, and we live very happily in LA. And so I was doing basically what I was doing in England in the US, but wow, it was such a different market, so different demands and the customer base. So very quickly I found myself in Chicago working with Ulta, in Austin, Texas, working with Sport Clips, in Minneapolis with Regis, with the Ratner guys down in DC, and then Sassoon in Santa Monica, working their academy, and Tony and Guy. So again, it was amazing working with all these really growing brands, and it really was interesting because these brands were just dominating their sectors. So like Sport Clips went from 300 to 1,800 locations whilst I was there. And so I stayed. And then after technology, I want to do something completely different. And so, transitioned and was looking for something that was more of a give back in one way, and trying to find something that wasn't what I'd done for the last 15 years and do something a little different.
Usually when people say give back, it means that they're ready to retire. But if everybody is listening today, I want you to know that you can actually watch today's podcast on YouTube. It's fun to see the faces behind the names, and you'll notice Paul is still a young, strapping lad joining us. So,
Not so.
so it's cool that that's kind of a heart shift that you had. And tell us who you are today. What do you do to support the beauty industry now?
Yeah, so I was at a lot of shows, and obviously you can tell I'm not from Texas. So I would go back to London regularly, and to Sydney in Australia, and go to events and just see things and like, what could we find that the US doesn't have? And we came across a faucet, a shower head called Eco Heads, and it wasn't in the US at all. And I just loved it. So looked at it and so almost fell in love with what it did and who it was straight away. And meeting with the founder, it was very much, all these brands in the industry care about the hairdresser's client, but who cares about them and what they're doing? And he was building a brand of tools that can support the stylist and the owner in their business. So one was rinsing water. He was Israeli, or he calls himself an Ozraeli. So he's Israeli, but lived in Australia. And it was all about increasing water pressure because there was issues in Israel with water pressure at the basin. And then in Australia, they were in a drought. There were 4-minute showers in Australia. And so he combined the two, and we now have this amazing product, which I think we have 55,000 basins now installed with it in the US.
Wow.
And I just loved it. I really got it and got the brand. I could see the vision. And I would go up to Melrose Avenue in Hollywood and speak to Guy Tang and Ricky Zito 901 and get feedback, place it. We first off installed it in Sassoon Academy in Santa Monica, which sadly is no longer there. And then I worked closely with the Tony and Guy team in some salons and academies. And I think Sassoon, within a day of having it in there, rang up and ordered 24 more for their basins.
Yeah.
So I knew it was special, and we were getting great feedback from the stylist. Guy Tang did a video. This was 2016, and it was a FaceTime live, which I didn't even know what that was. And I went into his studio and installed it for him. And I think overnight we had 101,000 views and made sales. In fact, we were flying to the UK the next day, and we got off the plane, and it was ding, 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 ding. And so it was like, wow, this is a whole new world. And that's really how I then transitioned, met with the Pulp Riot CEO, David Thurston, and his wife and partner, Alexis Thurston, and met with them, and they were growing Pulp Riot, the hair color brand. And they needed a COO. And I felt, again, I could see a brand that was just super successful and had embraced technology. And so what I'd learned from Eco Heads and meeting with them, I moved and took the position, and yeah, worked and supported David behind the scenes as a COO, growing the business, which was great. I learned so much more about the independent stylist and the stylist behind the chair, not always working with the business owner or a franchise corporate owner. It was more around the creative aspect of the industry. So again, with the tool business that I continued running with my wife, Valerie. Valerie owns Sustain Beauty and the ecoheads.com channel in the US. We did both and learned so much. So long answer, but that's sort of how it evolved. And from there, we've grown Eco Heads, created our own distribution channel, and added more brands.
Well, I'll tell you, and I know everybody listening who already uses Eco Heads as your, shampoo basin faucet, like there is no comparison to any other form. The pressure that comes out is incredible. I will never go back. So I personally will happily endorse Eco Heads. It's incredible. And yes, we'll have
Right.
the link in our show notes for everybody today. But it's funny because I'm so into it now that when I was at this very extravagant salon, I won't say where or who, but I couldn't believe that they had these basic faucets on their basin. I text a picture to Paul and he said, yeah, it's literally like a water hose that you would use out in your lawn. So if you are one that has the water hose on your shampoo bowls and you want to upgrade, you're making the very best decision. And it's not crazy expensive. I promise you, you will never go back. But I love that. Tell us some of your other, tools that make life better for the salon owner or the team, the stylist that your company provides?
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned give back earlier, and from day one, we could see it was saving water, and we thought, wouldn't it be amazing if we could then give water to water-stricken areas? And so we're just launching our second well. It's going to be in East Swatini in November, but we did one in El Salvador 2 years ago. So it was very much about save water, give water. So with the shower heads, we're doubling pressure, but we're also saving up to 65% water and energy. Which is super important to us, raising a young family and seeing the climate conditions. So what can you do differently to make it more effective in the environment that you can control? What can you do to do that? And so then we thought, well, let's have a give back as well. Like, let's make this brand really do good and feel good. And we wanted to be part of something like that. Yeah. So that's what we created. We haven't talked about it a lot. It's just something that we donate some of our profits, and that's the outcome of all the salons using it that have invested. You're also giving a community of around 300 people water. And what hit my heart, I think, was the fact it's girls who are the ones carrying the water back to the village. We have 2 daughters. And so it just felt like the right thing to do. And quite often the right thing to do is the right thing to do. Yeah. And from there, EcoHeads is a great brand, but it's a one-off sale. So you don't really you get customers, but they buy from you once. So a customer is someone that repeat buys, right? And so what could we then add where we could keep connecting to our audience? And so we were looking for other tools. We looked at a brand called Paper Not Foil, which is a foil replacement. We have a brand called ProCare, which is a machine that cuts and folds foil, which, again, when you look at the labor around foiling, it's like, how can we improve that? How do we make it better? How do we reduce waste? Scrummy was then another no-brainer. Yet for us, no one likes laundry. Each cotton towel uses 750 gallons to be made, just one cotton towel. And the Scrummy towels don't use water, yet excess water to be manufactured. And so a few years ago, we again did the same process. We started working with some salons, getting feedback and bringing that brand in. And now it's great. I think we're almost at about 100 clients a month using disposable, biodegradable linen. We found companies that will actually pick it up and take it back and compost it to go back to soil. So again, we're really trying to look at the service at the basin and make it as premium and as sustainable as possible, which I think has many facets. Then you can market that. You're caring about your stylist and the staff. One of our products from EcoHeads is a color mixer, and that gives you about 20 to 30% more product. And then you're not breathing in the fumes as well. Yeah, it's airtight and it's mixing. So for lightener, you're not only not up at your face mixing like this, like everyone does, it's in a machine, it's blending it perfectly, you get better coverage and more of it. So again, it's all part of this more efficient, sustainable way of running the business. And our manifesto is what we ended up with, which was, how do we then evaluate these companies and these brands? Quite often they're coming from around the world where there's innovation. So can we bring that to the US and then create a channel that gives it an easy access point and gives exposure to the stylists in the US?
How easy is it for stylists or owners to get these products? Do they need to go through a big kind of chain like a Salon Centric or Cosmoprof? Do they go through like a district manager, or do they have a sales rep?
Sure.
How does that work?
Yeah, so what we've done originally with a brand, we've been direct. So we've built an Instagram access point and a website, and they come to us because we're still learning the category, because these are all new things. No one thought about their faucet before EcoHeads came along. Yeah. Cotton towels was just, again, we don't really think about these things. Yeah, we do a lot of laundry. It's just repeat, rinse, literally operation. And so we learn first. We then broaden that out. So with the EcoHeads, we work with Kmark and Minerva now. So you can supply them through those brands. Salon Centric has it on their marketplace. We've worked with some great independent distributors in the US as well that supplied EcoHeads. With Scrummy we're still pretty much a direct brand because we're still learning and figuring out how to grow it. And it's expensive importing goods in, bringing them in, providing the right education and support. I'm sat here in my office in LA. We have 3 people out there that are looking after customers, processing orders, and talking to salons every day. And so it's expensive to launch and get these things going, but worthwhile. And I think that's what keeps our North Star, is knowing that it's growing and every salon that we work with is saving water and energy. In fact, in the Northeast now, some of the utility companies will give eco heads to the salons for free. They'll come in and install it for you if you're using their utilities, because they did the numbers and they worked with Frank Zona originally in Massachusetts in a Veda location and measured the savings and proved a return on investment. And I think they've installed about 7,000 of those heads in the Northeast region.
That's incredible. Congrats.
Yeah, it's amazing. We never thought,
yeah.
you never. And then I had someone, I was at the HPSA event with Doug and Jason and Alice, and I think it was the Z Gallery, it was one of the schools ran over and said, we don't run out of hot water anymore, which is amazing. And it's obvious, really, you're using less hot water, but you're seeing these benefits. I remember years ago installing them in the dry bar, and the clients seemed more impressed than the stylists because they wanted to learn about how it softens water. So many of the areas in the States have hard water and it softens up to 40%. So you can feel the difference. You can feel that it lathers differently. The technology that's inside the heads is using tourmaline and minerals to clean it. And so people want that. And I think even now with head scalp interest,
yeah,
we've got a great stylist that's worked with us for ages, Kelly Henniger Smith, and she's opened her own business doing health scalp treatments and super successful.
Wow, brilliant. Well, I know that the tools that you're offering to help our lives become better don't really stop with just the tangibles. There are technology tools that you're very passionate about. Tell us how important it is for owners and stylists both to really be open to embracing new technology.
Sure. Yeah. Look, I think that we have to be easy to do business with as a company, and technology is really driving a lot of our operations and our bookings and the convenience. And so having a technology background and then sort of a color and tool background has been great, bringing it together. And companies like Vish and Salon Scale, as an example of a category, are doing really important things in the industry by managing at a very detailed level. It's sort of the Starbucks story. You can spend $4 a day on coffee and not really notice it.
Yep.
Same with color application. The variance is crazy in application costs. And you can see that they're not always charging correctly for, say, toner. And so you're actually, when you've got a commission employee and you're doing toner, quite often you're losing money on that service. And the data's there. So I'm a bit of a data nerd at times when it's interesting and when it's helpful. And I noticed that. So we, with our color mixer, have optimized. Imagine you're giving 30% more in the bowl, then you're weighing the excess and learning how to recalculate your formula. So the money saving is huge. So if you're spending, I don't know, $50,000, $20,000 a year on color, the saving is meaningful as a percentage of profit, but it's every application that's important. And so the technology now is accessible. It requires some behavior change, but it's good behavior change. And what I'm doing at the moment is working with Salon-centric to try and build an ecosystem where these technologies talk to each other. So there's a company called Salon Interactive that provides e-commerce shops for free to salons. And that's connected to Salon-centric and independent distributors. And you can sell online the products and make a 25% margin, which you don't do anything. It's on your website. It's a link and it gets drop shipped for you and you get 25% of the retail price. This is the type of technology, again, that makes life easier for your customer, adds profit to the bottom line. And the real challenge with any technology is getting them used correctly. And so how do you form relationships between all these technology partners to make it easy? And so my vision for this project is really to link the distribution and manufacturer's product to the technology. So when you use one, you know you need to order it. It creates a reorder list for you. Yeah, you haven't got to worry about going in and spending hours, which I know painfully many owners and employees do every Monday to generate their order. And this can all be automated. The technology's there, and we just need to embrace it as an industry, and make it work. And there's the demand there for sure. So it's great because, again, to me, that's all around a sustainable approach to running a business. Because if it's not more profitable, by nature, it's not more sustainable.
Mm. You know, and behind the scenes, we could say, how do we help owners understand that they need to embrace technology? You know, why can't they just see this is so great for them? But it may not be our fault as tech founders or industry innovators that, you know, it's not our fault they don't get, but it's our responsibility. What do
Exactly.
we need to do on this side of trying to help people to help them embrace and really get them going to adopt all of these amazing resources? Like you said, they're out there. You just have to use them.
Yep. No, and that's, technology can answer our own question by using technology like this, yeah, to spread the word. But I think education is key for anything that we're doing in our business. So those touch points are so important. And, you sort of say, is it high tech or is it high touch? Well, it's both. And in a people business, and I had some great, not necessarily mentors, but great clients that when I first came into the industry taught me never to forget the human aspect of the business that we're in. One thing that Pulp did so amazingly was be there for a community of artists, and as David Thurston would say, hit them in the heart and the head with what they were doing, and it worked. And so I think that's where technology companies have to be inside this business, talk not tech, but talk as a salon would expect and understand. And I think sometimes it's explaining what does it really do and taking the mystery away. I'm not a technology person. I can't write code, but I know what is better. And it's really just that little bit of interest, I think, in just, okay, how does this really work? Taking the mystery away from it. And I actually find that quite creative. For me, is really understanding how do these pieces all fit together to give me a better result. And I think it's just time. There's never a rush. And sustained beauty is all about being on a journey. We're not here to judge. We don't expect everyone to have a PhD in biodegradability. What we're trying to do is make it easier. So we have a great checklist that Valerie, my wife, created. There's 126 items on it now. That can be used by a stylist or by an owner to reinforce some of the things that you could be doing each day to make it a more sustainable environment for everyone.
Ooh, I love that. And Valerie is incredible and also very creative. You both are such an amazing team. So I always love seeing her. She is such a hoot. And
Yeah,
so
no,
both
it
of
works well. No, she's busy next door working. We just did a great we had a couple of really good activations over Earth Day. We worked with K18 with an Eco Heads giveaway and celebrating Stylist Appreciation Day, but with clean water. And then with Davines, we did a no laundry week. So 10 salons won a week's worth of no laundry. And so, just great. And again, this is, you say, what can we do? Well, it's up to us to come up with creative ideas with the brands that they work with every day and introduce these things and make them easy to do business with. Just as we say technology should be for the consumer of the salon, we need to treat that the same way.
I love it. Well, I know you're such a visionary. So if you had your way, what would be the vision that you have for our industry over the next few years?
I think people talk a lot about, and I think it's Rolf's in Phoenix, about salon of the future. And Francis Tesmar's done some amazing things with education. And I think when I look at what do we need to do to be prepared for tomorrow, then I think technology and and understanding the generations that are coming up is so key. And actually, they're very linked as well. And so the adoption of it, how it's used, and providing the environment to learn for everyone is so, so important. And so I see salons where everything's optimized from the customer finding you. So take the tool that you do. I mean, I've been a big evangelist of it, and really keen to see it effectively used, because today, a lot of the technology doesn't nurture a new client. They may come to your website and leave.
Yeah.
Whereas we really need systems that can give that client more information, because clients want to be educated. They are way more informed than they used to be. We're still always going to have word of mouth, because it's always going to be a people business, but technology is also a great second best to a word of mouth. And I think we need the tools in place from a client's journey perspective. So before, during, and after the visit, supporting the salons with great consultation technology, and helping sell through what we're doing, because we have to make a profit to afford the education, to be creative, and to run a business. And so I think brands and distributors and technology companies need to help salons maximize what they're doing with their guests, is one thing, and tech will help that. And then it's the people aspect of it. So it's bringing that together. So it's making sure the user experience of all the touch points is easy and fluid, and the right thing to do at the right time. And so that, I think, is where I see the business is it's going to become a lot more efficient in the right areas. So ordering is another big one. Today, a brand creates a new product. That new product then goes onto a spreadsheet. It then gets sent to a distributor. Then the rep might get it. Then the salon owner gets a spreadsheet. Then you might key it in, or you may not. What happens when that product changes price or details, or there's a different size? That the technology now, through Salon Interactive, a distributor's platform, companies like Vish and Salon Scale, you press a button and it can be there. You don't need to ever touch that product again. And then that's where I think the future is just making it simpler, because it's so hard running a salon. If you write down all the boxes that a salon owner has to do in a day or a week or a month, there's maybe 50 or 60 different roles that come into running a business. And I think it's trying to get as many of those automated, because that's what technology does. It automates the task, and then the people can do what they do. And that's, again, tying back to things like a foil machine or towels. Why are we washing, doing, Alison King, we both know in Brooklyn, 11 to 12 loads of laundry a day she was doing. Like, it's nuts, really, when you think about how much time and effort we are putting into tasks that really don't need to be done anymore.
Brilliant. My takeaway is the future is efficient, integrated, and automated. We have to be profitable to ultimately be sustainable.
Correct.
So this
Agreed.
is where we're calling all of you listening today to get on board with trust us. We are here. We're committed to really help you.
And celebrate it with your clients. They
Yeah.
want to hear about some of these things. So I think, creating
totally.
their website. We've created SEO, we've created blogs, videos that salons can then share with their clients. Because again, we're in a competitive market, and I think we want to show off the premium nature of the services that we're delivering.
I love this. Paul, before we're done, what would be some final words of wisdom that you'd want to share with owners or stylists listening today?
Oh, I think recently, I get asked a lot, what technology should I use? Yeah, because quite often we've probably been maybe once bitten and twice shy, and apologize if I've bitten people and made them shy from selling technology for so long. But it's hard. It's hard installing software into busy salon environments for so many people. But I think there's been a whole phase now of learning and understanding. And I think my advice is find salons that are similar to how you operate, similar size, and ask them, what are they doing, and learn from the best practice, and find the technology solutions that work in the environments that you are serving. Because you ask someone if they got a salon, there's so many more questions you need to ask then to understand how it's working, how it's set up. But I would look for companies, and I had a conversation with I think, can't remember the name, the Salon, but they were looking and they had one technology, and it's like, right, let's write down 10 questions that we really need answering. What are the key things that you need done, and prioritize it? Because when you're choosing technology and choosing anything for the business, you need to know what's the most important thing it can do. That's what is it for us. For our EcoHeads business, it was e-commerce. We had to have a great shop experience. The rest of the technology came as a secondary, integrating to finance systems and all that other stuff. So if online booking is huge, find the best, easiest online booking system out there, then work back into your technology. So I think it's not being scared, it's being demanding, it's getting referrals and references and quizzing people, and make sure that the technology you're going to invest in is serving similar salons to you effectively.
So good. I appreciate that so much. I just have to say one thing, because speaking of quizzes, last week when I spoke at Data Driven, one of my top points in surveying consumers to ask them, what do you really want when you are selecting, like what makes you decide to choose one salon over another? One of the top three answers is easy online booking. So I appreciate everything you brought up today, Paul. I literally could talk to you forever, and I am very thankful that I am able to have a relationship and talk to you on a consistent basis, because you are so smart and just so passionate and committed to seeing this industry become the best that it can possibly be. And I just want to thank you for being with me today.
Well, it's my pleasure. Absolutely. As always. And look forward to another one.
Absolutely. And thank you
Very
all
good.
for joining us here week after week at Beyond the Technique. Hey, if you love this platform, would you take a moment to leave a review for us so that more people like yourself will discover Beyond the Technique, where we are here to change the way that you are supported in your business. Until next time, everybody, have an awesome day and stay strong.